Good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. At ESA, we are trying to share knowledge and experience of some of the leaders of the industry. And today, we have one such leader with us who has experience of more than 20 years. Grover Audiovisual Services is the largest AV solution company for conferences in India. I would like to now welcome Abhishek ji to take it forward from here.
Yeah, hi friends. I hope firstly all of you are safe and kind of having a good time with your family, and we all have very little time we are able to spend with our family, and we should look at it positively, this current situation. And I will then move forward. Basically, the crux of my presentation today is audiovisual solutions for conferences and events, and how we can make it more successful and more efficient for all, and how we can plan for it, and what are the various parameters to do it. So I have basically divided the presentation part into four main parts. One is that when you look at audiovisuals, you first need to have an understanding of the client requirements. This is many times a well ignored thing, but it is very important. This is the preliminary stage. Then after we've had the requirement, we need to sit on planning and designing the AV structure. It should not be a haphazard that, whatever we have, we put it, or, anything which has happened in the previous conferences, we do it accordingly. We should look at it and plan for it. Then thirdly, we look at the special features. By special features, I mean things which are out of ordinary for the conference, which normally you don't do. Maybe there is a interactive call like we are having today, or maybe there is a VVIP who is coming to the conference, for that special care has to be taken. Maybe some ministerial delegation is coming or something like that. Then lastly, we come to the post-production and cloud-based solutions. By post-production, I mean so many times, the conference has happened well, but post-conference, you're not able to deliver the video on time or the data or any other format. So that leaves a kind of a negative, you can say flow in the client's mind that, everything was okay, but in the end, they didn't give us the data on time and things like that. So we need to plan for that. So now coming to the first part, understanding the client requirements, I have basically divided into three main categories. One is the scale. We need to know the number of attendees, number of thematic tracks, whether it is 1 or 8 or 10, howsoever it may be. There are sometimes even 40 tracks. Then it is the venue. So for example, you have a 200 people conference at the Oberoi Delhi versus you have a 200 people conference at the Pullman Delhi. Both will have very different kind of AV requirements which you can plan for it. Then we come to the objective. Now, what is the objective of the conference? Is it a teaching conference? Is it a promotional event kind of a thing? Or is it a blend of the two? So we need to plan for it. Then we come to the vision. What is the vision of the conference? How do they want to, look at the conference? It means distinguishing features. So how different you want to make the conference, what the client thinks about, how the client feels that, how we can make the conference different. Then what is the lineage of the conference? This is also something which many times people do not, really look at, because they don't see. By lineage, we mean what has happened in the conferences in the yesteryear, the previous year, if it's an annual conference or a biennial conference, or maybe even if it is a monthly meet. So we need to understand the lineage of the conference. And then lastly, and still I would say one of the most important features is the budget. We need to know, as in terms of the budget, how we are going to look at the conference. Now, after we've taken a brief, we need to set, a lot of these factors are very basic, but once we see them, it becomes more relevant. We need to sit on the planning and designing of the AV structure. For this, I would recommend all event professionals to actually go and see your AV partners' warehouse and offices. You will get better ideas. You will get more confidence. We have many international delegations, many international clients come and visit our warehouse. But very rarely we have Indian clients and Indian professionals coming and visiting warehouses and office. So these are things which can be planned. Now in planning, designing of the AV structure, I have basically divided into few parts, which is the plenary hall, the thematic tracks, the speaker ready room for larger conferences, poster presentations, exhibition and registration area. So these are the various divisions. If we go through them, we will be able to, in a systemized manner, be able to break down the conference planning and execution, so that we don't miss out on any one single aspect. Now, when we come to the plenary hall, So plenary hall has 4 or 5 important aspects. And if we look at one hall, we will be able to replicate the same to multiple halls if the conference has. And also something which I will say, which is a problem till some time back, that the hall is not booked on time. Maybe it is just booked 12 hours before the conference starts, or maybe 8 hours before the conference starts. So we need to plan all those things. So major components for the plenary hall I have divided into display and content, whether it's an LED wall, HD projectors, normal projectors, sound. Everybody takes sound as a given thing, but we need to know whether it is a general PA system, or whether it is column speakers, or whether it's line array. Again, lighting, what kind of lighting, because with lighting affects your display as well. With lighting affects other parameters as well. Then there are certain parameters which people ignore. Playback and sound, light and video console. What equipments are used there? We'll get into that. Then studio setup and cloud connectivity. I've taken them together even though they are not really connected to each other, but they have a certain correlation with them. So by studio setup, we mean what is the multi-camera setup, what kind of still photography, video photography. Cloud connectivity, what we are doing right now, whether it's a Zoom, whether it's a professional connectivity. And the last point, still one of the important points, is power and genset. This I will come to as and when we go to that part. Now coming to the display and content, I first go to the LED. So I will kind of go fast into this because I know many of you already have a lot of input on this. So we have mainly 2 parts of the LED kind of setup which we can do. One is an indoor kind of an LED. If your event is outdoor, then we have an outdoor kind of an LED. In LED, of course, there is the standard kind of various sizes of LED, 10 by 20, 40 by 10, maybe 80 by 10. So depending on what our requirements is. Then in the special things, we have things like which are curve LED, whether it is a concave or a convex curve, whether we have special shapes. I will come into the special shapes, whether we have the 90 degrees, whether we have the LED standees. So all these parameters we basically want to look into. So now I have put in, just to give you a demonstrative understanding of a curve LED. So with a curve LED, you just not have the curve in front. I've given you a photograph at the back. So sometimes, people have this question that, what exactly is the amount of space which we want at the back, how we want to plan for it. So this is just to give you an idea. And this is an event, incidentally, the PM attended this event. So they had a lot of other parameters and a lot of other juggles with it. So you can see various setups. So this is another example of a curve LED with special shapes. So in certain kind of setups, we have, this kind of curvature shapes on the side. Basically, it makes the setup look a little more beautiful. It has no technical advantage to it, but just that it makes things more appealing. It makes, things look a little bit different. This is for a conference in Kolkata, which was again a little bit of a different shape. So like this is one of the clients why the special shapes come into advantage to us. This is one of the clients who kind of, said it to us like this, कि मेरे को होटल का दीवार और ceiling ज़्यादा दिखना नहीं मांगता है. It is like he wants an end-to-end LED. So when the ceiling went up, the LED went up. When the ceiling went down, the LED went down. So you can do innovative small things, and you can kind of add your basic understanding to this, and you can, give a better output to the client. So again, just to give you another example, we have this kind of a hut shape structure, which we recently did for a conference. So we did the special shape in a hut. So it gives the bigger space for the PPT, and we have a better, visibility. So for most of these halls, we didn't use any delay screens or delay plasmas or anything like that. So just to give you this idea. Then in display and content, again, we have something called the 90 degree, which is very much in use, not just for exhibitions and, outside areas, but this was inside the hall. The client said that I want to give my PPT on an LED and I want the logos on the LED, but I don't want them on the same plane. So we kind of used a 90 degrees so that the logos, sponsor logos are there, but they are not right in front. So it's kind of a subtle way to basically put in the display. Then we have something which is being used a lot these days. That is the LED standees. So the LED standees are of 2 kinds. One is a standard end-to-end LED standees. Then this, I may like to call it the LFD display standees, which you use at the airports. So this one, incidentally, is at the Pullman Hotel. It is permanently placed there. Sometimes it gives you the input regarding the restaurant features. Sometimes it gives you the input regarding the various events which are happening at the Pullman. So this is how we manage them. Then again, this kind of video I have just put in so people can understand, the actual agenda can come on this kind of an LED. And it is much better to use a dynamic agenda where especially speakers change and every last minute you get a lot of changes. So something like this can be used. So now coming to one very basic parameter which people generally ignore: how good is your hardware without your software? So we use big LEDs, we use big displays, but the content we are just displaying, which is just a PowerPoint or a face of the speaker. So here, this is one of the conferences in Chennai. You have the face of the speaker, the PPT, the name of the speaker, the chairperson's name. These are all graphics which are prepared in-house and which can be planned for once things are happening. Then you have the name of the speakers, the play buttons, who has to dignify who is actually going to speak and who's currently speaking. So this is again an example of an end-to-end digital display kind of a system where we have multiple things coming in a large hall. So this is again a video of one of the animations which can be played on the LED. So you need to have a correct content for the actual hardware which you are putting. So many times, many of the AV partners like us, we give you very big setups, but the content is not managed. So either we should get the input regarding the content, or the content should be managed from a separate agency, howsoever required, and we can plan for it. Now, of course, a lot has been said about the LED, but still, the projectors have their own place in the events industry. So these kind of projectors are the 14K, 20K. These are stackable to make it 28K, 40K. They can accordingly, they can be modified. These have the vertical stacking and things like that. So these are again another kind of projectors which are basically laser projectors. So laser projectors, the advantage is that they are not very they are not very prone to getting low light and things like that. Then you have the DLP projectors, short throw projectors. So again, for the HD projectors, if I go back, you can have options of 3D mapping, of content creation with these kind of projectors. So, and also for your hall B, hall C, even so many times for the main hall, we can have these kind of projectors being used for various conferences. So this is kind of one part for the this thing. I will go for some Q&A. If Nimitji, there is any questions which are there, I can take some questions if required.
Thank you, Abhishek. You did very well. Just give me a moment. Let me take at the questions. Look at the questions. How did we have a question from Mangesh Ji from I don't know his company name, but the question is, how did one achieve the shape in LED cabinet as you shown? Anita, can you please unmute Mangesh Ji?
So
hello.
Just to give you, yeah.
Yes, Mangesh Ji, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you to give me an opportunity. Okay, so I just wanted to know like how the curve edges and the sharp edges at the top of the LED screen, that how can one can achieve, because we get a module of like 500 by 500 cabinet. So have you customized it or something like that?
Yes, these kind of special shapes, whether it is a triangle shape or whether it is a curved shape. So these kind of special shapes are customized shapes which we have. So these shapes we have as an in-house inventory for customization. Some are angular, some are circular. So various, sometimes people make even words out of it, and you might have, say, something like a Maruti to be written and things like that. So they are used as alphabet making as well. So these are customized shapes, and they are used for certain applications, and in this case, like, they are being used as generic end-to-end solutions. So yes, these are customized, but of course the 90 degrees, they're quite easily available. So
yes, 90 degrees I have seen. And one last question, like and how like cost wise, if I were to say, like if I were to ask for a question regarding the cost, like is it much more much more on a costlier side? Like suppose if I want to propose my client for this curve round edges or triangular like cloud kind of thing what you have shown, so will it cost me more than the regular fittings of the LED?
Actually, between curve straight, there is a 10% difference, and similarly with some of the edges, special shapes, there is a 10% difference as far as cost is concerned, but that can be modified accordingly, and we can see it on project to project basis.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. This is Mangesh from 70 mg.
Thank you. Thank you. You can unmute now yourself. We have another question, Abhishek ji. What lumens of projector is used for outdoor projections, and can it be used only in night time only, or how it is?
So actually, you know, there is no per se thing which you can say that outdoor projection. So let me give you a reverse example. Even indoor LED wall, which is much, much brighter than most of the times you will get any projectors, can be used as an outdoor LED wall during the day or during the afternoon. But yes, if you have any of the higher lumen projectors like these 14K, 15K, we use this for 3D mapping. Like for example, 20 of these projectors can be together, be aligned with a watch out system, and you can have a 3D projection in the late evening or during night on say India Gate or something like a large building, any big facade, we can use it as 3D mapping. But yes, you cannot use any projectors during the day as per the current this thing. Even LED walls, there are two kinds, indoors and outdoors. Outdoors also, the LED wall which has a brightness of over 4,000 to 5,000 nits, that you can actually use as a pure outdoor LED, in which, you know, on this kind of weather which is like sunlight and it's not dull, so you can use minimum of 4,000 nits. And even an indoor LED will not work as an outdoor LED, let alone the waterproofing and other parameters. Even the brightness will not be sufficient.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you. Got it. So we've got another question from Prashant Kashyap. What pitch of this LED and what is the block size pixel wise? So
okay, so if maybe I will touch into the LED part a little bit. This is basically the basics of the LED. So I'll go very fast on the basics of the LED just to give everybody an idea as a basic thing. So when we say 2.9, 2.8, 2.6, 3.9, these are basically the parameters for indoor LED. When we say 4.8, 5, 6 mm, these are mainly which are being used for outdoor LEDs. So what is the mm or the pitch of the LED? The mm or pitch of the LED is the distance between the two dots of the LED. You can say it is the distance between two individual bulbs or pixels between the LED. When you measure the distance between the center of the two pixels, it is called the pitch. So 2.8 maybe or 2.9 is the distance between the center of the two individual pixels, and that is what measures. Now coming as far as the cabinet is concerned, most cabinets today are 500 mm by 500 mm, which is half meter by half meter. Some cabinets yet are also 576 mm and so on, some modified sizes. So there are some 1000 by 500 mm as well. But if we take a standard size of 500 by 500 mm, I will go in very quickly to a formula as to how to calculate. People, you know, mainly orally explain it to each other, and there is a lot of confusion. So I've kind of, you know, written it down. So if we take as a test case, most cabinets are 500 by 500 mm. Common indoor LEDs we get as 2.9 mm or 2.8 mm with 3.9. So 2.9 mm, for example, is 168 pixel and 3.9 mm is 128 pixels. So the calculation for a 2.9 is such: 500 mm divided by 168 pixels is equal to 3.9 mm, or vice versa. If you multiply 168 by 2.9 comes to 500. So this is the way to actually calculate. And now how to calculate an LED in total. So this is a photograph of an LED of 40 by 10. So how do you calculate? So many times that as event professionals, you would get a question that, you know, what is the pixel of the LED? The watch out guy will ask, or the agency doing. So this is a case study. You have a 2.9 mm LED, which is 40 by 10. So you have 24 cabinets by 6 cabinets. 6 cabinets is top to down, 24 cabinets is left to right. So 168 into 24 cabinets accordingly comes to 4032 into 1008 pixels. So this is how you are able to calculate the pixels of the LED. As a last slide, I would also give you an idea as to just mainly for event professionals. There are many things, you know, which people say, what is the defining parameter of an LED? Because you asked 2.9 versus 3.9. So what are the parameters? Pixel is one parameter, but just like a camera, The megapixel is not the only parameter. For example, you might have a phone having 100 megapixel camera, so that doesn't mean that that's the most efficient camera available. You have DSLR cameras which are much higher in quality but 20 megapixels. So you have certain things like refresh rate, which is normally 3840 or maybe sometimes lower. The quality of the pixels, like Nation Star is one of the companies, and that also you have categories A, B, C for different qualities. The calibration at the factory, the materials and features which are being used, the individual tile materials which are being used, PCB layers, whether it's a 4-layer, 2-layer, the connectors for signal and power. I know these are very much in detail, but these are protocols which should be known. Installation, how you are doing the installation. The age and pedigree. LED is a very fickle kind of a thing, which makes a lot of difference whether it's 1 year old or 5 years old. So age and pedigree is important. Then again, maintenance, in-house repair is something which is most important. So that is how we basically plan to see the different parameters for LED walls. So that's about it. So back to you.
Thank you. We've got a couple of more questions, but I suggest that you can probably proceed on your presentation and we can take these questions later on.
Sure. So now after the display, I know these are very common things, but they are important. We come down to sound. Now sound, I've just tried to divide into 3 very basic categories. One is a basic PA of a conference, which we normally use, and which is a tripod stand and a speaker. Then you have these sleeker kind of speakers which we tend to use these days, which are like of RCF, JBL Eon, which are good for 100, 200, 500 or 300 odd meeting. So these are the 2 kinds of standard. Then for the bigger halls, for the plenary hall, we tend to use something like this, which is a JBL or an RCF HDL20. So in this, again, we have 2 different kinds of sound setup which can be there. One is a ground stack kind of a setup where you have, and the other is a flying, which is for larger halls and looks more aesthetically pleasing as well as more efficient in terms of the actual usage. Then again, we come to lighting, which is again ignored aspect in conferences and events. Yes, a lot of people pay a lot of attention to it, but in conferences, a lot of people, really don't pay attention to it. So when even we look at some basic things like an LED bar, which has been in our use for ages and ages, we don't look at the correct mix of warm white and cold white. So whenever we, for a conference or for an event, we look at an LED bar, my general thumb rule for a conference is 40-60 ratio, 60 being cold white and 40 being warm white is the ratio which we should have for an LED parkan which we are placing. Then profile lights for the podium, then programming board and things like that, because this is something which is not generally, people sometimes forget to order it and they just order the lighting and then the programming board doesn't come in, or, is ordered at the last minute. Then going to trussing, I've just try to skim the surface and not try to go too much into details so as not to complicate it too much. And we have 3 kinds of trussing. One is the most basic T trussing, which we use for indoor events. Then we have the box trussing, which we use for outdoor and indoor events as well. And then we have also for indoor, we have these kind of bar trussing, which is the most efficient and the space saving formula and aesthetically looks beautiful. Like for this event, again, it was a PM event. So the PM was not there in the stage, but he was on the audience. So he was right under the trussing, but because it has a lot of space saving and a stability option to it. So this is also something which a lot of event managers can look at it and professionals can think about it. Now, again, I will touch into something which is mostly ignored. That is the SLV console, or as the AV console we call it. What are the equipments which are used for the AV console and how important they are? This is at one of the top. These are the full HD or 4K switchers which we may want to use. Again, we should try and use switchers with DVI inputs and SDI inputs only, or maybe HDMI inputs you can use, of course, and convert them into DVI. So then we go to laptops, media servers, and playbacks and connectors. So many times, we have a huge LED. Everything looks very beautiful, but when you actually play the presentation, it is blurry. Many people have seen that. One of the main reasons for that is that the playback laptop, which is there at the podium, the output is connector format is VGA, and the LED size is 60 by 12. So it doesn't really make any sense. So we use full HD switchers. With that, we use the correct converters to convert. Then we have these state-of-the-art cables which have started coming. In addition to the HDMI cables, we have the AOC, which is fiber optic hybrid, which has come in, which is very good for long distances, like HDMI cables. We should avoid more than 20 to 30 meters. Then we go to simplistic things on the AV console, digital sound mixer, cordless mics, whether it's a face mic, whether it's a hand cordless. Then well ignored small things like, you use a laptop audio, but don't use a device like this. This creates a lot of disturbance in the laptop audio when you're playing a video or something. This is an audio DI box. Then again, we come to a situation where we have a genset. So I'm going into the UPS. Why is it that I've put the UPS inside the AV console? So even when for many conferences you have a power by genset, but I always recommend that the UPS power should be taken for the actual AV at the AV console. So in case you're using a watch out or a switcher, that doesn't get switched off in case of a genset failure or any issue which is happening at the back end. So at least you have a good turnaround. Then I would also say, specifically relevant for all the event professionals, know your team at the AV console. If you know them well, you will be able to direct them well. These are really small things, but very important. Then coming to a next segment, which is studio setup and cloud connectivity. Why I've taken them together? Because studio setup consists of multi-camera setups like these kind of HD mixers with PMW 200 cameras, and talkback system is something which a lot of people ignore. They put it, even big event companies put camera, multi-camera setup, this, that, but forget the talkback. And sometimes the agency doesn't bring the talkback. So your post-production editing quality is never that good, because without the talkback, it's like basically the cameraman is on his own. He is just playing a blind game. So that is as far as the multi setup is concerned. Then we have devices which are hardware devices which do webcasting, like this which is there. Then we have a device which does something what we are doing right now. It is a Zoom connectivity, but this is a hardware device, a Polycom 500, Group 500. This is a more professional way. If suppose we were an audience of say 2,000 people, I would like to connect via this device, get a correct audio video input signal. So this is a more professional way to connect for this thing. Now coming to one of the last parts for the main segments for the conference is the power and the genset, but it's like very important. Let me just go to just the genset part, which is relevant for most people in the country. You have a genset requirement, you say a 125 kVA, you get an uninterrupted power of say 60%, you do say 70-80 kVA, you get a power, and that is it. That's what ends. You just use a console UPS and that's all. But in places like Delhi, which are more interesting and try to make it more fun for the event industry, they ban gensets almost 6 months in a year. So then, the client comes and argues with me, I will take 80 kVA UPS, but I will not take raw power from the hotel when I'm paying you for 80 kVA UPS. So these are small things, not just the client, even sometimes the event professionals are not clear that, you need to have this 3-step approach. You need to first take the raw power, then take the online UPS, and then get an uninterrupted power supply for your event. So this is what I feel as a standard format for any main hall. These are the basic parameters which need to be looked at and which need to be, have a complete thorough through. Now coming to the thematic tracks, which are, small halls. So small halls have the same parameters as the bigger halls, but have some specific parameters to it. The bigger hall has the massive LED. So what should the smaller hall have? Should it have a very small size or should it have a big size? So it depends on a lot of factors. What is the height of the, so many times I have a height of say just 10 feet inside the hall and a big LED of 9 by 12. So it's not useful. It's because the visible area will be much smaller. So you need to understand then what is the usage as per duration. Is the hall being used just for 1 hour? Or is the hall being used for full 3 days? So the kind of setup you need to plan as event professionals versus the cost is how long the hall is going to be used. It's not just the capacity of the hall. Then sometimes, people forget, they say, Array, my plenary hall should be, 3,000 packs and my current venue has only 2,000 packs. So they forget a very, very basic point that we can relate from the plenary hall to the smaller halls. So this is something. Then again, the recording facility. Why I've touched it separately here as well is that so many times people actually, do the recording of the main hall, forget the smaller hall. So we need to plan for it. So again, we come to something which is called the speaker ready room or the preview room. This is extremely important for larger conferences which have multiple tracks, whether it's the loading systems, whether it's the skill team for your event professionals, or it is for the networking for your AV agency. And it's much more important than we think. So it is something which we need to cater for it. Then we come to something which is a poster presentation. These days we've been migrating intensively from physical posters to e-posters. And this is one parameter, unlike the other parameters of AV, cannot be decided in the last 1 month. Needs to be planned 3 to 4 months in advance. It needs to have a pre-conference planning. An interactive dashboard needs to be built. We do that for many conferences, medical, non-medical ones as well. We need to do data integration. We need to have guidelines in process which need to go to speakers at length at least 3 to 4 months before the conference starts. So this is something which we need to do. Then again, we've seen that many times, especially where there is a single PCO involved and they've been tying up with the client. So many times, just the list of the AV for the equipment inside the hall is given. Nobody is looking at the pluses. Nobody is looking that the exhibition area also needs to be vibrant. Nobody is looking at the fact that how do we get people inside the hall other than just giving a good scientific program. So these are some examples of some of the conference. Like this is a convex LED where we've placed the hall name, what is happening in the hall, what floor the hall is. This is a new venue in Kolkata which has been there for a couple of years, but people are still confused as to which floor, which hall. So we've put in the floors of the hall as well, so as when people are standing in the lobby, they can understand that where exactly we are going. This is a similar example for an outdoor LED which we've placed for a conference. And again, this is an example of how we put the agenda or the conference highlights. This is again an oval LED, a special shape which we've put for one of the conferences, which incidentally due to COVID has not happened yet. It's an annual conference. So again, we go into the post-production, which is one of the last parts of what we want to talk about. So we need to look at the recordings of the plenary and the thematic tracks. How and when to hand over the recordings. Otherwise, at the end of the day, it becomes very difficult for people to chase, for people to find out. Then again, even sometimes, the show manager or the organizer just says record, and we don't know whether it's a point and shoot recording or whether it's an interactive recording. So these days we've had ways to develop very good quality of interactive recordings, which are cloud based, which are pen drive based. So you can have these kind of interactive recordings, which we call also the event replay, where it is as good as going to the event. If you miss the event, you see this, it is as good as going to the event, especially for multi-track conferences. Then of course, webcast of conferences, still and PPT handover and things like that. So now I have actually a question for you. In which segment of AV, especially for event professionals, I would like to ask people who manage shows, in which segment of AV do you think you face the maximum amount of problems? And you can ask other questions as well.
You can raise your hand if you would like to interact, and we can unmute you accordingly. Would anyone like to make a point here? Apparently, Abhishek, nobody has raised his hand. So we have a couple of questions in the chat box. Can I take them one by one?
Sure.
Okay. We have from Madhur Anand. Kindly let us know the ways in which a watchout server helps. If you can show an example, nothing like it.
Okay. So I'll just need to go back quite a bit. So basically, what we need to see is, just to give you a very basic example, I will give you 1 or 2 examples. You can say one LED is controlled, one set of tiles of the LED is controlled by a device which is called a sending card, which controls the LED. So for example, this is a 60 by 14 size of LED, and say suppose a 20 by 10 of this size, 20 by 14 size or 20 by 12 size is controlled by one sending card. So another sending card controls the second segment of the LED. Another sending card controls the third segment of the LED. So to put it very simply, you can consider one sending card cannot control more than 1/3 of the LED. So when you have 3 sending cards, I'm just putting it in the most basic way. So when you have 3 sending cards which are there, so of course there is no way you can make a single image. So this is a single image. So whenever you need to make a single image,
sorry.
Yeah. So whenever you need to make a single image, you need to have a software or a device or a hardware. Sometimes we can use a hardware also to actually integrate these individual sending cards to make one single image or make a PIP in between. So basically, watch out, if I put it in a very basic manner, is that watch out is a software which integrates set of your sending cards, which you may think as projectors, if people who've been working in the olden times, to make one single image. We used to do the same thing when we used to do with projectors as well. I have done a conference with projectors also some time back, in which we used watchout. So which makes the same kind of image. So the watchout has 2 functions, primary functions, for 2 or 3 primary functions for an event or a conference. One is to integrate to make to a single image, and then the second is to make PIPs, whether it is a PPT, face of the speaker, this is a background layer. So there are 3 basically PIPs in a way, you can say 2 PIPs and 1 background layer. You can make 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, as many number of PIPs as you want, depending on the limitations of your cards and things like that. So this is the second most important, and third equally important part for the watchout is to work as a playback device. So when you have any kind of big video which is playing end to end, that can be played with the help of a watchout. So just to give you an example of a video, so actually the videos here cut a little bit, but if you see this closely, this is a single animation video which is playing on a 46 by 10 feet LED. And this can be played with the help of a watchout or any other hardware integration device. So that is basically how it is required.
Thank you, Abhishek. We have got one raised hand from Ashish Jagoda ji. Anita, can you please have Ashish ji as unmute?
Hi, Abhishek. Thank you for this wonderful session, and thank you, Nimit, for reminding me again. Just wanted to check, this is a very common problem that we face, that echoing, the voice echoing, especially in the hanger structures. So, many a times we think that we have to maintain distances. Many a time we have to say that, okay, we have to do something which needs to be soundproof. So how do you, what do you suggest? I think it's important for everyone as well here. When you do a conference in a structure, how do you, as an AV company, can help in controlling that echoing in the structures?
So, Ashish ji, actually, the answer is not one single answer. It is many small things which need to be done. Some from the production, some from the event organizer, and some from the audiovisuals. So I will start with the AV part first. One is that mainly in the hanger structures, as much as echoing, the problem is of the spillage of sound from one structure to another structure. That is the more important problem. So the spillage can be avoided with the distance. The echo can be avoided with using a sound system which is just enough for that structure. It is not more, it is not less, it is just appropriate. Also, one very important part to avoid echo and avoid spillage is to make the structure of the size of which it is required to be used. So for example, you think that for a majority time for the conference, only 1,000 people are going to sit in the hanger structure. So you make the hanger structure of say 1,200 or 1,500. But if you make the hanger structure of 4,000 and 80–90% of the time only 1,000 people are sitting, then yes, you will get some kind of echo or a spillage of sound. The other aspect, which is equally more difficult thing to control, whenever, especially for medical events and some other corporate events also, when there are multiple hangers close to each other, because of course there is always a lack of space, there is always a limitation of setup time. We can do a lot of things to avoid it. One is that we have to have that physical distance. We need to do some kind of buffering which is physical, and then with the audio acoustics we need to measure the acoustics after the hanger structure is built, and then plan the sound according to that and modify the sound. So basically the sound comes as a slightly customized sound. It doesn't come as a one size fits all. It doesn't come like in a Oberoi ballroom, you put 4 speakers and it is switched on. Here you need to play with it a little bit. You need to see what best way it is happening. So these are the two ways. And in terms of the organizer side, from your side, how you can plan for it. You can leave the distance, you can educate the client that this is something which is a part and parcel of the issues which is there. We have an option, either we do, you know, massive soundproofing, which I don't always recommend because it's not possible financially, time wise, aesthetically, everything. It's a bit of a challenge. I've done certain conferences like Make in India Mumbai, which happened, which had huge structures being built. Every time, you know, a conference doesn't allow that kind of infrastructure spent. So, and incidentally, you know, Modi ji today has announced that he's doing Make in India 2.0. So because of various industries coming in, so maybe it will be good time for us, and we will have many more events which will happen in larger spaces and hangar structures. But these are small bits which need to be done with the AV company, with the production company, and also with the event planner.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Abhishek, very well answered. Okay, so we have got a couple of questions here in the chat box. There's one question for explain the pixel calculation again. Probably you can do that later on, or you can email it to that particular attendee. Then
you can send me, anybody requires can send me an email on my email ID, and I will send them the requisite details.
Okay, there's one very difficult question I think it's to answer. It's from Sarthak Khanna. What is usually done with the audited technology, and where do we stand on global platform when it comes to such technologies? Any edge do we have over other countries apart from the pricing?
If I understand the question correctly, that what is our edge versus rest of the world for audiovisuals?
There are a couple of questions here. Like first is that what do we do with the audited technology? For example, say for instance projectors. Then the second, okay, probably you can answer one by one. Or if Sarthak is here, can we unmute him?
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Nimit. How are you?
All well, thank you, Ji.
Thank you so much, Abhishek sir, for such an informative session. It is, you know, really very helpful for us as an event planner to know such small details. So a couple of questions in my mind. I thought you'll be the best person to answer. So one, you know, obviously it involves a lot of, you know, capital which is invested in this kind of a technology, and which obviously every 6 months, maybe a year or 2 years, I don't know the exact you know, age of a particular technology, but what do we do with the old technology, or you know, which is not which is comparatively outdated, and where are we on a global platform in terms of technology? Obviously the work you have shown in your PPT is quite a few which we've not thought about, imagined, but never thought about as an event planner. So now obviously it helps you to you know, think beyond what is the usual rectangle shape or a square shape kind of an LED. So just want to understand that where are we on a global platform? Are we the top ranks, or is there a lot India has to catch up as a event you know, planner country?
I think I would like to believe that we are among the top, and the reasons are, I think, varied. One is that I would say we are extremely competitive in nature, not just for audiovisuals, for everything. And we have always tried our best to, you know, actually follow the trends. And like, for example, we do a lot of events for international AV services company, a lot of European companies, a lot of US companies. I'm not talking about like I do an event for Google, just I'm talking about I do an event for the AV agency which does an event for Google. So they actually in depth sit with us when we are sitting during the event at the AV console. They discuss with us, and many times I have seen the amount of equipment which we've used, The amount of turnaround time which we do it in has been much better than what they are expecting in a normal circumstance. Plus also, I think we have a big advantage in using a lot of equipment internationally, especially in Europe and some of the other places where I have seen work happening. They use a huge amount of minimalistic equipment. They have, you know, just one device doing 3 different features. Sometimes it is much more efficient. Sometimes it's not so good because they don't. Like for example, I tell international agency that I will do a backup audio recording. So he's like flustered that, you know, how can you do 2 devices just as a backup? So in those kind of things, or sometimes I tell them that, you know, instead of a 20 by 10 LED, I will do a 40 by 10. So they say that, you know, we use this size only for like very, very big events. So of course, they also have huge size events as per their convention centers and as per their scale. But in terms of technology, I think we are right there at the top. I don't think we have much to lack. But in fact, I would say that we are well ahead if we look at the services point of view. If we look at the last minute requests which we answer to most of the clients, I think internationally nobody does 10% of that also. So we say yes to somebody, you know, I've had a client who's come to me at, I think 2 a.m. at night at the Pullman Hotel and say ki, sir, ये तो LED हमें छोटी लग रही है, बड़ी करनी पड़ेगी. And morning 8 a.m. the event has started and we have increased the size. So, and even though it was a written size given, the graphics were prepared, but we did it. So I think we are equal standing on the technology part. Of course, every day we are learning. Like I will give you an example, say around 7 to 8 years back when 14K, 20K projectors were not available in the country. We learned it from a conference in New York that, you know, these kind of projectors can be used for medical or corporate events, you know, big projectors, large format projectors. But yes, of course, every day we are learning things from them. But I think we are well ahead in terms of service, and in technology, we are well on the way and we are among the top. As far as the redundant technology which you asked me, I don't know why you want to know about it, that where the equipment goes, but if I will be very honest and candid with you, I think 75% of the equipment in our trade, it breaks down. So if I give you an example of a plasma TV or a laptop, it conks off. Before
we're running out of time, Abhishek. We're running out of time.
Yeah, so that's about it.
Okay. So we got a couple of more questions. I'll be very quick. Does sound and light have to be on different gensets?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have from Vipul Jaswal from Indore. Hi, Nimit. We faced lots of issues while managing the lapel mic. Do you want me to unmute Vipulji?
Yeah.
Vipulji, are you there?
Hello. Hi, Nimit. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, very well, very well. Please go ahead.
Hi, Abhishek. How are you?
Hi. Good. Please tell me.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of time we have faced issues with the lapel mic, wherein even having a brand like Shure, there is a lot of whistle or to control the speaker moves the neck too much left, right, and the volume control becomes an issue. So how do you think we can manage, go about or some cross-check point which can ensure that we can handle it properly?
So there are 2 answers to this. Firstly, a lapel mic will always have audio variation if you turn left and you turn right, because the lapel mic, as they say, is put on the lapel. So if you turn the other side, you will be far away. Hence the usage of face mics, which I had already shown in my presentation. This is a Countryman face mic, which is used by many speakers and many singers as well. So this is one solution. It gives you a better quality and depth of sound and a more stable sound, a more single level sound. That is one part. The second part, and equally important, is that a lapel mic is a very, very difficult device to manage. So when you are using lapel mics, and I think you may have noticed that you have less problems when one lapel mic is used, but you have much more problems if 6 to 8, 9, 10, 12 lapel mics are used for panel discussions and things like that.
Yes.
So that, yes. So basically that is when you need to use lapel mics, your quality of sound has to be super premium, as well as it should be, according to me, a digital mixer, and all the basically things which have to be planned accordingly. For the lapel mic, if it is multiple lapel mics, you should have a chart for the lapel mics. You should have the numbering of the lapel mics. Basically, your audio engineer should be top of the line, and your equipment for audio and the lapel mic should of course be very good. So for example, if you're using Shure, it is Shure or Sennheiser SLX4 or upwards. That is the series which you should go for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Vipul, I hope you got your answer.
Yes, I got the answer.
Abhishek, we've got only 10 minutes to go. Do you have anything more to be presented?
Yeah, I'll just finish the last segment, then we can have the last couple of questions.
Okay.
Right.
Please go ahead.
So actually I have just finished everything which I wanted to say, but I just want to add some things which are sometimes left ignored and sometimes not well known. That is why I've named it as basics and innovation, special features which are there. By basics, even in the COVID days just now, we have something called a click to share. You wirelessly connect this to a laptop and you don't need cables. You can just, even two people in a boardroom or a conference can connect it and they can switch on their own as well. Even the AV console person doesn't need to switch between the two laptops. And so there are two people on the panel, they can switch among their own laptops and the laptop is wireless. Small things like a lot of people use wireless presenters or clickers. So, but people for larger events sometimes, do not use something called a Q-Lite, which is basically does the same job, but is much more efficient and has a much better range. Then you have things like a spotlight presenter, which is basically used to enhance the quality of your presentation. So it can give a spotlight on the LED, it can be used as a monitor, it can be used as a pointer, an electronic pointer, it can be used as a magnifying glass. It even has an inbuilt timer. So for example, Nimitji was informing me that 10 minutes are left, it can buzz 2 minutes before, and it is there in my hand. So it will vibrate so as to tell me that, my time is over. So these are small things which, are not very expensive or not very much complicated. Then we have something which I think we will not use for the next 6 months, but I wanted to show it. That is the interpretation equipment for various languages. And I don't think we have any German or any other country coming into India in a short period of time to actually for us to be able to use. But yes, we use it for the Hindi language and various vernacular languages also. So this is the interpretation equipment, which is also something which is very much in use. Then an extension of this is something which can be used now in these kind of COVID times. This is incidentally a photograph of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, where the PM holds the group of chief ministers meeting every few months. It's been happening, no thanks to us, electronically last couple of times, but this is how it used to look like. So this is equipment which is called a push to talk mic, which most corporates don't use till now. And this is sometimes confused with a gooseneck mic, which is next door. So this is something which needs these kind of mics. The advantage is that they have a feature in which 10, 12 mics need not to be just connected. You can even have 500, 700, 800 mics connected in one series, whether it's classroom seating and so on. So why it is important in the COVID days is that you can have distance seating and you can have mics on each table instead of going for hand cordless mics and people passing on hand cordless mics. It eliminates the chance of any virus or any infection like that. And in this, we have a complete software system, as well as we have features where you can order tea from your mic as well. And the mics can be voice activated. You need not even press the button to speak in the mic. You can just start speaking and the mic automatically gets switched on. Then we have something called the audience response system. All of you know about it. This is the ARS, which is used in Kaun Banega Crorepati. We have the hardware as well as the software version. A pie chart can come. Then we have something which is a 3D projection and transmission. We have specialized systems for that. We use this more for corporate, sometimes also for medical events as well, so as to enhance the quality of presentation and engage your clients. Then small things like, wireless buzzers and things like that. Then we have the presidential teleprompter. Our Prime Minister uses it a lot. So now, in fact, you have association heads. In the last few conferences, in the last couple of years, I've had for normal conferences, association conferences, I've had people asking for these kind of presidential teleprompters to be used to give speeches, their presidential orations which they have during the conference. So this is how it is used. Now, this is lastly one of the segments which I have kind of tried to show you, which is called the silent conference system. Here you can see there is a group of 20, 40 people sitting for each hall. This is a circular hanger which has been placed at one of our conferences in Kolkata. And there are 8 halls simultaneously running without any partition, without any disturbance. The speaker is speaking. The chairperson is actually asking the question. The presenter is actually presenting on a TV or a projection system. So it is as good as having 8 parallel halls, even if you have one big hall that can be divided, or you have a hanger structure. So this saves a lot of cost. It saves a lot of build-up time. It saves a lot of, even interest for the client for doing something different. You can scale this up to say 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. So this is more or less the parameters which I have kind of tried to suggest. Now the last slide which I'm going to talk about is what makes your pitch different. It's something very simple. Everybody knows it, but I just want to say it. Having some new innovations in your kitty, because the client is going to ask you something, you have to give them something which they like. Then having a clear-cut understanding and flexibility with your AV partner. We have had sometimes some of our associates, offer the moon to the client and then say, give us a solution. So if you're confident of your AV partner, you will be able to, deliver much better solutions. Then of course you can do custom-based solutions with them. And something which is very important, you need to take care of the difficult parameters and the basics both equally. You need not, sometimes there is a big VIP dignitary coming in and you have all the attention towards that, but you left the basics to play. Then having an efficient team from the event manager or the PCO's point of view helps us as an AV agency to better deliver your event. So that is one. Then lastly, I would like to say strive for the best, stress for quality. Consistently getting it right is the key, and passing marks is 100. That's what I would like to say to all my team, and that is what I would like to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last set of questions.
Thank you. So we have a special attendee today. Sumanji, are you able to hear me? Sumanji from CI wants to ask you a question. Sumanji? We've got a couple of raised hands as well. Anita, can you please unmute Sumanji? I think we lost him. I'm unmuting Avinash.
Hi, Nimit. Hi, Abhishek.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Avinash from CIA.
Anji.
Abhishek, just want to understand that recently you have just shown the mic which is automatically on while speaking. So I want to know whether it is a wireless or what is the frequency, and at a time how many mics can be on.
So the push-to-talk mics, as they are called, they are wired the way it has been used with you in certain other events as well.
It's a DSI mic?
Yes.
Which you are talking about? Okay.
Yes. These are the DIS mics, and they can be used as a push-to-talk, or they can be automatically created.
How? Means in our meetings generally we use DIS mics, and I have never seen the person who speaks it's directly on.
Yes, it is a setting which needs to be done. Okay. And if required, we can do that setting, and we can plan for it accordingly.
See, nowadays it's a COVID, so how much our industry is definitely means in trouble. So do we have any solutions that how we are going about once the lockdown is over and maybe all the market is open, and do we have any kind of solution that how we go about the events and audiovisual, what you are going to provide us? So
okay, So as far as the COVID related things are concerned, we are working on certain solutions which are COVID specific, and we can discuss that offline, and I will explain that to you as well. And as far as the number of mics which you said, how many mics can be connected at a time, there is no particular limit to the number of mics. It is say at an average you can have 500, 600, 700 mics depending on the space available. And the mics can be pre-programmed in such a way that you can have maybe only 3 people who can switch it on at a time, or you can have 6 people who can switch it on at a time. But we don't want too many mics switched on at one time, because then you will start getting echo effects and certain other issues which are there.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinaji. Okay, we have got next question from Srinivasan. Let me unmute him.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Abhishek ji and Amit ji. It was very good presentation. Just to understand, what does this black LED and white LED, which will make the difference in the presentation? The black LED and white LED.
Which LED, sorry?
Black LED and white LED pixels.
Okay, black LED and white LED. Okay, okay, got it, got it. Sorry, I haven't had this question for the last, I think, 4 years. Nobody has actually asked this question. See, we used to have the white or the black maybe a couple of years back for the indoor as well as outdoor. Outdoor, still there are some white lamp LED which are available, but indoor, I think currently the white lamp or the white this thing is not there so much, because the quality of you can say the contrast is not so good in that, as well as there are some color variations which happen. And this was used in the initial stages when LEDs had started coming into the country. You had a lot of white lamp LEDs and so on. But I think in the last couple of years, we've not had too many cases where white lamp LED or something like that has been complained of, because the technology has gone up. But there might be some older models which might be available. But it's basically to do with the contrast. The contrast does not come out good, and the color combinations are not good. That is the disadvantage.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have got one question from Gaurav Panwar. How big image we can do without watch out in feet or meter, and how big image we can make without watch out? So both is without watch out. Basically with and without watch out, probably he wants to say.
Okay, see, if you want to talk about without watch out, what is the size in feet or meters? It is not really possible for me to answer that, because it depends on the pixel of the LED. So for example, a sending card can throw out a certain million pixels. So if I use a 2.6 mm LED, the size of the LED which can be done without a watch out. And when I say without a watch out, it also includes the fact that without any other hardware integration unit, because a hardware integration unit also does something similar to a watch out, not exactly similar, but does something similar. So for example, some people in some of the places use a device called J6 and things like that to combine two processors or to combine two sets to make into single image. So it depends on the pixel of the LED. So a 2.6 mm pixel LED will make a smaller this thing with a single sending card, maybe make a 18 by something, and a big pixel LED, something like a 3.9 can maybe do a 28 by 10 LED, or can do a 24 by 12 LED size. So it depends on the pixel of the LED. A 1.9 mm will do a much smaller size. So it depends on the number of pixels which a sending card can control. And also, as the quality of the sending cards goes up, the size can go up. So there is not one answer, but you can get a very decent size. You can look at something like of a 20 by 10 is a good thumbnail to look at it, or a 24 by 10.
Thank you, Abhishek ji. So we got just two questions, like the last two questions for the day. One is from Vineet Kumar. Can you please explain how to calculate how much UPS is required during a basic conference? How do we calculate at our end?
So actually, how much UPS is required is very simple. You need to understand what is the wattage of each equipment which you are using. For example, I'm using an LED of 20 by 10. It is say around 10 watts or 15 watts, depending on the pixel of the LED again. what is the wattage of the sound, you add that, what is the wattage of other peripheral equipment, you add all the three. And a good thumb rule is, especially if you are going with the UPS and you have a raw power from the hotel, a good trick is that you can put the house lighting. If the event is not like super critical, you can put the house lighting on raw power. So lighting has a large consumption of power, and then you can have the UPS for the sound, video, and these parts. So generally a 30 to 40 kVA requirement for a moderate size of LED with a basic setup is okay, without the lighting part, of course. And you can increase it. That is the way to calculate, individually calculate all components.
Okay, thank you. I think the last question for the day, like if you could explain once again, how do you calculate the pixel for LED? I'm getting a lot of requests to me privately. If you could just explain once again that how do you calculate the pixel for a LED?
Okay, so this is like really simple, but it's just once you need to take hold of a pen and paper and write it down. I think it's a writing thing. As they used to say, maths you need to write. So this is maths, it's nothing else. So just to give you an example, and I'm giving you the simplest of the examples. Most of the time you will get, as event professionals, LED blocks which are 500 by 500 or 576 by 576 for indoor LED, I'm saying. For outdoor, they may be slightly larger and so on. So for a 500 by 500 mm, I will take a case study so that we understand the formula correctly. For a 2.9 mm usually used, we have 168 pixels. For a 3.9, we have usually 128 pixels. So the calculation is very simple. 500 divided by 168 is 2.9. We get the mm of the LED. Now we come to the actual calculation of an LED wall. Why we need to understand the number of cabinets. So here you need to have a good knowledge of the metric system versus the meters versus the foot. So each cabinet is 500 mm by 500 mm. So which if you calculate in your inches, you will get it accordingly. And left to right, you have 24 cabinets for a 40 feet. So you just need to convert meters into feet. So you have 24 cabinets, which means 12 meters. So 12 meters you convert into feet, you will get an approximation size, and 6 cabinets is top to down. This for event professionals, I will say it is as simple as learning it by heart. 5 cabinets is 8.2, 6 cabinets is 9 feet 10 inches, and so on. So you can do that. So when you have a 40 by 10 LED, a simple formula is 168 pixels into 24 cabinets is 4032, and 168 into 6 cabinets top to bottom is 1008. So the total pixels, when you give it to your graphic designer or when you give it to your maybe some other agency to develop the video, you need to say that the pixels for the LED is 4032 by 1008, and the LED is 2.9 mm, and the number of cabinets are 24 by 6 cabinets. If you say these 3 parameters, everybody is clear. Even your production guy, even your fabrication team is also clear that this is the exact size.
Thank you. Thank you. You explained it quite well. Thank you, Abhishek, once again for coming over and sharing your knowledge and experience. Thank you. Thank you all the participants for coming over. There's just one last question from Prashant Kashyap. Hold on. Can you please ask him to show calculate how far? Basically, there's one last question that can you please ask Abhishek how to calculate how far should the audience be for the optimum view?
So see, I understand the question. The question basically means, which is one of the top asked questions for an LED wall. And actually there is no single answer. There are a lot of charts which say, you know, for a 1.9 mm LED, you should be, you know, 5 feet away. For a 3.9 mm LED, you should be, you know, 14 feet away or 20 feet away. So this is not as simple as it sounds. So there are other parameters to the LED, as I explained earlier, which define the quality and which help you. So for example, a very high quality 3.9 mm LED, you may need to, even if you sit very close to it, you will have no problems of, you know, straining your eyes and things like that. But the same lower quality, lower refresh rate LED of 3.9, you need to sit a little bit further away for you to actually, give an answer as to, what is the distance. But a general thumb rule, I will say, as event agencies, a general, very basic thumb rule is, if you are doing this for a conference, why I've put in this image, a distance of a stage is minimum 12 feet or 16 feet. The audience sitting from the stage is minimum 8 feet. So you easily get 20 to 24 feet from the LED. For a 3.9 or a 2.9 mm good quality LED, you should never face a problem. So that is what I would stop it at, and I will also send you a mail as to the exact diagram as to what is the calculation for what is the optimum distance as well.
Okay, thank you, Abhishek. So the last, let's call it a day. Let's end this session, and I would like to inform all the members that we are doing 2 master classes. One is on Monday, the other is on Wednesday. Monday we'll talk about the power distribution. It is going to be presented by Vaibhav Kapoor from Third Wave Services, and the one on Wednesday is very interesting. It is on the outdoor structure safety, and is going to be presented by country head, Losberger country head, Ramit Parmar. So if you could just, we will share the link soon for the registration, and if you could just register yourself. And we look forward to welcome you on Monday and Wednesday respectively. All right, thank you for joining us today. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nimit. Thank you.